to me is the non-binary barista I see working at a coffee shop after I've had quite a rough morning on my way to school. I walk inside that building to see a they/them name tag behind the order counter and sigh with relief. My day is just about to get infinitely better, as I know I'm in very safe hands. It's the faded lilac blue hair streaks, maybe some Hot Topic pins on the lanyard. That's what Kiiikiii means to me. I don't even have to glance at the coffee rig to know that espresso machine's kept in pristine, military-grade condition, and I trust that the cinnamon spice will be plentiful when it arrives in my hands. I know I can expect excellence when it comes to this group. So excellent, in fact, that I've kind of been avoiding this album in the week or so it's been out. Not maliciously, of course, love Kiiikiii, but fully aware of how good it was going to be and how it was going to forever shape the way I viewed K-pop for the rest of this year. And that was the case. That was the case. I was right to be apprehensive. I don't know what benevolent entity is working at Starship on Kiiikii's behalf, but whoever you are, thank you. This album is so good it makes me mad. I'm a little bit upset over this. There are so few moments in K-pop where the teasing of the music ahead of its release has been worth the wait in a satisfying way. The only other group who did that well was NewJeans. Song so good, yeah, I'll wait a week for them. We'll move on your terms because clearly you know what you're doing. There's a fervor, that's the word I'm looking for. There is a fervor behind the scenes to deliver a packaged product when it comes to this group. It just takes that one really talented creative girl or gay man in the industry to deliver the world magic, and here we have it. Why Kiiikiii? I'm so upset. I'm so upset that this is spectacular. Let's begin. Kiiikiii returns for their third standard album release since debuting early last year. While the debut album Uncut Gem was very divisive over its production, the commitment to concept stood out immediately, and that was something that the group catalyzed for the following album, Delulu Pack, earlier this year, of course earning them a lot of success with the UK house and garage sensibilities of the title track 404, The New Era. Being able to judge these three albums in retrospect, there's an adept attention to detail when it comes to audience reception. Delulu Pack smartly ventured outside of the established sound, while still remaining committed to the more rugged textures they debuted with elsewhere on the album. And it just so happens that the electronic-heavy 404 New Era was exactly the kind of sound that pairs well with their concept and performance styles. Why Kiiikiii follows through on this, though refuses to simply stop at the sound that worked well for them in terms of commercial success. First impression, Kiiikiii is really positioning themselves as an albums group with this trajectory in mind, the first of their kind in quite a long time for K-pop. They have a team behind them that clearly believes in the vision for this group and its members, and knows how to synthesize styles and aesthetics insanely well. The album sees this group addressing the success of their previous lead single, but again and importantly, doesn't make it the focus of the project. Why Kiiikiii thoughtfully uses this newfound attention to stress the absolute limits of their commitment to concept development and aesthetic curation. Going in order, we begin with Ever Too Late, a song that offers a beautifully blended approach to the recent hyperpop wave in K-pop. This song leans more heavily on an EDM dance pop framework to drive forward a deeply sentimental feeling and atmosphere. The production creates a kind of paradox. Vibrant, abrasive hyperpop synth textures clash directly with sensitive, very melancholic chord progressions. This stark contrast fills the track with a powerful sense of nostalgia and intense longing, making the entire listening experience feel very bittersweet. Narratively, Ever Too Late tackles the heavy emotional weight of wasted time and complacency. It really does a lot to capture that specific, kind of suffocating moment when you realize you have been static for too long. The lyrics question whether you might have missed out on your deepest desires simply by failing to be proactive or refraining from acting on your goals out of fear. It asks, is it ever too late to start moving toward what you want? Will you make it there in time? Kiiikiii offers a resounding no. It's never too late. The song excellently maintains a thin veil of narrative optimism even while it's cloaked in the musical, agonizing pain of regret. This emotional duality vanishes during the track's dramatic conclusion, where the energetic production falls apart to reveal raw and underlying worries. A stripped-back, key-driven vocal outro takes center stage, using a solitary piano to unmask the true sadness that has been hiding in plain sight here. It has been this almost heartbreaking chord progression that was pulling us through the song's sense of optimism. It delivers an implicit and sobering realization that while of course there's no schedule to achieving your dreams, the heavy regret or even sadness of having not moved sooner is something you can't easily shake. The next song, Hey Hi, works as an incredible adaptation of 404 New Era's recent success, orbiting around its signature sonic identity while forging a distinct path forward. It keeps a lot of the same glitch elements and chopped vocal stabs, yet it deftly shifts the overarching mood into a much warmer space of electropop. A standout feature of this transition is in the verses, where they're anchored by a series of honestly mesmerizing oscillating synth waves. I think they're my favorite musical feature or thing of 2000s pop production. These lumbering, I think they're sine waves, maybe, that have been rounded out so much that they have a very warm buzz or hum to them with a lot of reverb. I could be wrong about that. If any people actually versed in music production could weigh in the comments. I'm really interested in pinning down what those waves are actually called. They add so much character to the song, and keeping in thematic alignment with the philosophy of Ever Too Late, Hey Hi actively moves to romanticize the beauty of everyday life. The lyrical and musical journey encourages listeners to find peace of mind in the life that you lead at this exact moment, regardless of where you ultimately dream of moving on to in the future. It works as an uplifting narrative that inspires everyone to maintain a confident, quote, queen mindset through even the most mundane everyday routines. And again, this thematic grounding is greatly supported by the track's audio engineering. That wash of reverb does some pretty heavy lifting for the narrative to me, opening up a relaxed and unhurried atmosphere. By embedding these expansive sounds into the arrangement, the production effectively works to also romanticize some of the, I guess, traditionally less vibrant moments in life, right? The spotlight is placed squarely on the beauty of minute, overlooked moments and details. That's what Hey Hi sounds like to me, a chill song to accentuate the importance of the chill moments in life. We then progress to Pop Off, the album's lead single, which kind of abruptly trades the tender moments of deliberation found in the last two songs for a blast of unbridled confidence. The electronic textures here are aggressive, leaving little claw marks across the verses as a bit of a hint of what's lurking just ahead in the chorus sections. The song pulls heavily from a very specific sonic era, stretching back maybe a few years prior to the early 2010s visual aesthetic it draws from. And I think this kind of retro mining, while visually thoughtful, proves to be a bit of a double-edged sword here. In my opinion, the chorus leans a little too safely into the characteristics of a classic 2010s party anthem. I think most people will pick up on the TikTok by Kesha influence, an association that is really only strengthened when the chorus line kicks off with the phrase flip-flop instead of TikTok, right? I think once that connection clicks, it unfortunately cheapens the overall delivery. Ironically, in this way, the title track stands out to me as the weakest story beat of the album. It's not a bad song by any means, but it plays things a bit too safe on a project where I believe Kiiikiii has already carved out more than enough room for themselves to be more adventurous and idiosyncratic with their musical references. I think it's great that they're pulling from previous eras and committing to the concept, but I think I was looking for just a bit more that pushes this song to the current day, that separates it from what's come before it. I think other songs in this album do that so much better. Thankfully though, the post-chorus does accomplish this. The moment the production triggers a sudden descent, the song becomes infinitely more compelling, dropping into heavier, darker electronic textures that instantly ground the more dizzying pop elements back into place. It does pull from the same time period pretty reliably, the staticky textures and vocal melodies and all, but synthesizes that into something that sounds more unique and inspired. And musically, the structural drop also works to follow through on the album's earlier sentiments. While the preceding tracks establish that it's never too late to start moving toward what you want, Pop Off acts as the explosive catalyst to set those things into motion. It strips away the overthinking to encourage you to let go of all remaining inhibitions and relentlessly chase after it. It's never too late, of course, but it's also now or never, so go and get what you want. Pop off, in other words. The next song, Sweet Sour, strips away the heavier electronic armor of the previous tracks for something a bit more subdued, but arguably just as quirky. Built once again on a foundation of electropop, but surprisingly, with G-funk hip-hop styles to them. With these two references, this song crafts another nostalgic and bittersweet, or sweet-sour, atmosphere. G-funk in mind, obviously very reminiscent of the Y2K aesthetic this album is orbiting around. The instrumental works to mimic the suffocating, quote, stickiness of a humid, rainy summer day, filling the music itself with a tension that balances escapism with real emotional weight. We touch back on the topics of overthinking when you're stuck indoors as a summer storm is raging outside. The song spins around the anxiety of wanting to confess your feelings to a friend while struck with the almost paralyzing fear of ruining what you already have. A lot like a whirring fan on a humid summer afternoon, just pushing the hot air around kind of annoyingly. There's a sweetness to the anxiousness that comes from having a crush, but the bogging worries are just as aggravating as the humidity. This tug-of-war finds its resolution in the song's arrangement, where I think that high-pitched synth works to symbolize a literal and also metaphorical slow clearing of the weather. And then we proceed on to Candy Pink Magic Hole Flip Phone. I've made an executive decision that this is the best song of all time. And that's really all that I have to say about it. I'm kidding. This song plunges head first into an exhilarating, chaotic burst of Y2K hyperpop maximalism. This is the best, dare I say, the best rendition of this time period in the context of K-pop. I feel pretty confident in saying that. It pulls a lot from the crunchy electronic musical conventions, also the rising vocal melodies that sort of surf along the beat, but it's so grounded in today. This is what makes adaptation work, at least in my opinion. I want to be able to feel and hear the modern day influences. And so, steering a bit away from the more grounded atmosphere of the previous track, this song operates on a fast-paced, greedy electronic landscape driven by buzzing synths. It uses pixelated, kind of low-fidelity 2000s chiptune textures and sudden phone-ringing notification soundbites. It creates such an infectious, high-energy dizziness that makes the listening experience feel like maybe I'm overcaffeinated. Narratively, Candy Pink Magic Hole Flip Phone, I think the title was supposed to be Magical Flip Phone, not Magic Hole. I don't really know what happened there. The only thing I can think of is this song's narrative and music creates a pocket dimension that is accessed in the aforementioned candy pink colored flip phone. There's a sort of dissonance here that seems a bit intended. The song uses the emergency of a dead cell phone battery as a metaphor for the urge to stay connected and live in the moment. It captures the anxiety of being out with friends in summer, watching the last bar of battery slip away while you're trying to navigate a party. The lyrics sort of push back and forth between a sense of FOMO but also rebellion, frantically asking the question, what am I supposed to do about this pink flip phone that's about to die? Our narrator doesn't want to miss out on the party looking for a charger. I just love everything about this song. The narrative is a bit abstract, but you do get the general sense it's speaking to living in the moment, as the rest of this album is, only using the anxiety of having a dying phone as just a way to ground yourself at the party. And the flip phone, described as magical, kind of gains this mythic quality. I'm going a bit off the deep end with this song. 300 out of 10, my favorite song on the album. And then we round out with the final song, Blue Hour, a track that bottles all of the bittersweet emotions we've experienced throughout this musical journey as the day comes to an end. Instead of leaning into more heavy frictions, Blue Hour opts for a more expansive and atmospheric soundscape. Notably though, it entirely avoids filling the role of a K-pop album's obligatory ballad song, which I know a lot of people will appreciate. Blue Hour instead adopts a bit of a trap focus, pulling us further into a distinct 2010s sonic aesthetic, but with a lot more modern sensibilities. Again, this is how you do it. I love thoughtful adoption of aesthetics that are mindful to include more modern production choices. Moving past the claustrophobic overthinking of the afternoon, the lyrics of Blue Hour describe an escape under the night sky with the intention to simply, quote, follow the stars. It works to encapsulate that fleeting moment in the late hours of the night where you feel safe enough to kind of fall apart and embrace being reckless. There's a comforting freedom in this space, in the Blue Hour, driven by the realization that the morning sun is about to come and reset everything anyway. Again, this ties us back to the album's earlier sentiments of living in the moment, looking forward to each new day rather than dwelling too much on the future, all working to neatly bookend the emotional arc of the album. It's cohesive, musically, aesthetically, conceptually, and even narratively at times. Kiiikiii as an album succeeds because it understands that good pop music requires structural stakes. We need the stakes, and we have plenty of them for this album. I think Kiiikiii already stands as a masterclass in modern K-pop architecture and world building. The production uplifts these narratives, oftentimes helping to spell out the overall ideas and feelings being expressed. The album's strongest moments serve as a vital blueprint for the wider K-pop industry on how to synthesize dominant aesthetics in a way that feels meaningful. There's finally something here to sink our teeth into. Kiiikiii subverts expectations by anchoring these sounds to strongly ground their own artistic identity. Every song stands out as making great use of its references and the friction that produces. But of course, obviously, Candy Pink Magical Flip Phone is the absolute standout for me. I'm so glad it's being promoted on live shows, but yeah, I think overall, this is what I think on first listen. Maybe album of the year. It's going to take a lot to see this one beaten out, in my opinion. Thank you for watching this. If you did, let me know what you think about the album, especially Kiikii's trajectory as artist these past 3 albums and things like that. Yes, thanks again for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.